Letting me down. Help Mecha Constellations. Summary. Amira cleans the mess left by a drunken Odelia while making sure her siblings don't know about their alcoholic mom. Alternatively, Amira deals with her messy family in her own way. Edit, officially done, can use for your own story if you want as long as you credit me. Notes. This is my first FIC, so please be gentle. Reviews are appreciated. No flames though. If you are triggered by potential child neglect/referenced alcoholism, either read with a trusted individual or not at all. If you're not, then enjoy. I'm pretty sure this takes place in between Lost in Language and Adventures in the Elements. Note, I did edit this to fit the current canon because I felt it suited the story more, so in case you're confused, this is why. See the end of the work for more notes. Work text. Waking up at 4 a.m. sucks. But waking up at a reasonable hour only to find your mom choked on her own vomit sucks even more, so Amira follows through. She walks down the hallowed halls to check for any potential damage caused by her parents. Thankfully they didn't run into each other, so there is no damage. However, that's not to say there's none. She checks up on Edric and Amity. Edric is spread all over his bed sound asleep, good. Amity fell asleep at her desk studying, again. Amira hoists her on her shoulder, carefully as not to wake her, setting her as gently on the bed as possible, placing the blanket over her and giving a gentle kiss on her forehead. She would never be this affectionate when she was awake, her parents took care of that a long time ago. Pushing down her feeling of resentment, Amira went back on her main goal. Normally the maids took care of any calamity her parents may have caused, but she tried to help pick up the pieces whenever she could. Partly out of guilt, but mostly so she could have some semblance of control in this crazy dysfunctional mess of a family. Normally her mother could be found in her study, trying to figure out her latest marketing scheme to sell more abomination weapons, but treasurer of the PCA at Hexside, co-CEO of Blight Industries, the most prominent socialite in Bonesborough, and mother of her, Edric, and Amity. Unfortunately, due to her duties, as well as her drinking, partying, and sleeping around with half the boiling Isles, she'd been neglecting her motherly duties. Not that Amira and her siblings were neglected. No, technically speaking, the Blight siblings were the farthest thing from neglected. They always had a roof on their heads, food on their gigantic, elegant table, clothes on their backs, constant new books, toys, jewelry, supplies for school, endless resources, and presents monthly. Not to mention they were all old enough to take care of themselves, so they were never dirty and on the verge of accidentally hurting themselves. But her mother was hardly ever available to sit and chat, help her with homework, watch the crystal ball together, help her with her time of the month woes, or just be there emotionally at the end of a bad day or at all. Not that she would sober. As she entered her mother's study, she noticed it was neater than a museum. There are no spilled potions, broken paintings, glass or chair, upturned desk, bookcase, or books, or cabinets to be seen. And most upsetting, no mom. Not passed out sprawled on the floor or even at her desk working. Just not there. It was clear that either the maids got here before her, or her mother was never here in the first place. Maybe they dragged her to her room? Well, as long as she was here, might as well get the other thing she came here for. Amira went to her mother's desk, pulling out her special parchment paper and pen, tucking underneath her arm. She'll need that later. As Amira walked down the hall, she suddenly tripped over something, nearly crashing into a nearby table, knocking over a vase. What the dash? Thankfully she was able to catch herself and the vase as she looked to see what had blocked her path. Not, surprisingly, Mommy, dearest, herself face planted in the carpet, passed out. It must have taken one of her me days. The only good news is that she was lying on her face, so at the very least, she wasn't in danger of choking on her vomit. She debated just leaving her there instead of taking her to her parents' room or her mother's room, the one where she stayed when she and her father got into one of their fights, which was often, before begrudgingly deciding on her mother's room. Damn her and her conscience. If only today weren't a school day, and her mother weren't passed out, so she could sneak her mom into an Alchemist Anonymous meeting. Not that the first 2 times were very effective, at least, they had helped her, realizing that she had maybe gone too far in attempting to post Amity's diary around the school. So it wasn't a total waste of time. Though it was her fault, considering her mother was inebriated at the time. Amira picked her up by her arms, hoisting her on her shoulder, trudging through the labyrinth that is the Blight Manor, yanking open the door, walking the 400 yards from the doorway to the bed, practically throwing her onto it. Sat her up, tucked her in, surrounding her with pillows to keep her upright so she wouldn't choke on her vomit. Amira took her mother's hand, squeezing it tightly for a second. Tighten. She wished, well, it didn't matter what she wished for. Amira learned a long time ago that it would never come true. The sad thing was that this wasn't the worst part. Neither watching her mom scream bloody murder at her father for not being a good husband, a good father, or a good person, or not getting to spend time with her because she was always working. And also actually working. Or that she could die at any given time. No, the worst part was that things weren't much better. When she wasn't a drunken mess, she was cold, stoic, formal. But this wasn't the time to think about that. She had to move on. Amira went to the spacious kitchen and started on a PB&J sandwich, an apple, yogurt, and a cookie for Amity. And tofu and non-dairy grilled cheese, a take on her favorite sandwich, along with pudding and chips. All with apple blood boxes. Amira took out her mother's parchment and pen and scribbled 2 notes for Ed and Amity's lunches, making sure not to sound too cheesy but not the same callousness as Odalia. Typically their cooks took care of this, but lately, Amira had taken up this job mostly to give her siblings a sense of, what? Love? Reassurance? Safety? That their mother didn't hate them? Or maybe she did it for her peace of mind. Em yawned. Forget my lunch, I'll just buy something from the cafeteria instead. Amira slinked back to her room to get some sleep before her alarm. Might as well treat herself to some sleep. Notes. Make sure to review if you want more. And if you're still here, thanks for giving this a chance. Also, comment down below if you want weekly chapters, a story that's finished from the get-go, or if you don't care if a chapter's finished at all. Edit, after some review I decided to discontinue this storyline, as I feel my alcoholic Auralia doesn't hold weight in my mind anymore. I'm sorry to all who were waiting for a part 2, but don't fret. There will be more that aligns with the show's canon, and I may write more for this AU if you all really want. And if you want to write your own story based on this FIC, you have my full consent as long as you credit me.